she forgot that's executive.
Maybe she didn't notice the executive.
You should be live. I'm gonna check, make sure. You're good whenever you're ready.
Do we know if Madison's coming, or?
I have not heard from her.
No, okay. All right, wait a second, it's 5:30. Okay, it's 5:30. We'll call this meeting to order. First of all, Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Acker, would you like to lead us?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up is the approval of the agenda, and there is one thing that's going to be eliminated. That's under action items, letter O, the EVIT Special Education IGA will be eliminated. So I'll move that we approve the agenda with that exception. Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have the agenda approved. Next up is executive sessions. So we will vote to go into executive session for the purpose of discussion of an employee's performance-based pay. I'll move that we go into executive session for that purpose. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll adjourn to executive. Okay, it's 6 p.m. We'll reconvene the regular meeting. Next order of business is approval of the minutes for the June 4th board meeting.
Do we have to
I move we approve the minutes.
vote to reconvene?
Oh.
Oh.
For that. So, okay, Lorraine, do we have a second? I'll second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved unanimously. Next on is informational reports, starting out with current events from Dr. J.
Yeah, thank you, President Rakowski, members of the board and guests. I'm happy to be back after many weeks in Poland, and I do want to show a few things about the trip here in a minute. But I want to start with, since I wasn't here at the last meeting, special thanks to the high school for a really nice graduation. That's not easy to do. I've done it several times, and it's very stressful. And it was a beautiful evening, and I stopped by Falcon Fiesta, saw some of the kids for a little bit, and the volunteers, and thanked them. And so special thanks to the high school team for putting on a good event. I'm going to head up to the podium. So I just wanted to thank the board for support with the Sister Cities exchange. This is the third trip we've had to Poland. We will have kids coming in August to come give their perception. They did little journals that Luke had them do about what they ate and what they did and what they liked and those things. But I just thought I'd give you a quick overview since you guys were so supportive of that. The first trip was in 16 when I was principal, 19 was the second trip I was principal, and this is 25. So I've been a part of all three of them in one way or another. And this is the beautiful city of Zamość, and it's a lot like Fountain Hills. It's really unique. It's a cute little town, similar size, and people are very, very proud of their town. And it's very, very beautiful. The kid on the right in the leather is Wojtek. He stayed with us back in October, and that's Milos, his buddy, at the town hall. So that's where the mayor's office is and the centerpiece of the city. And just kind of looking at the town square, there's always events going on and different things happening there. This was a little musical every weekend. They had music going on, and it was really cute. So they're very excited. They're very happy to have that. This is the main school we stayed at most of the time, where the kids who stayed with me are from. There's 3 high schools, so 4 students from each high school. And this one was just redone. It's very beautiful on the outside and on the inside. One of the things that our kids learned a lot about was the history of the Polish people, suffering they've been through, and just a lot of people don't realize how recent a lot of that suffering has been, and how recent the history with Poland's occupation. So this is a memorial in Zamość called the Rotunda, and this was a Nazi camp in Zamość, where many of the people of Zamość were taken and executed. So it was very, it was a very sad place. The whole rotunda is a museum, so there's pictures and information about everybody, and this was an area where a lot of the executions took place. So the history was everywhere we went, from Zamość to Krakow to Warsaw and all the villages in between. This is Jan Zamoyski. He's the founder of the town, and the kids were really excited to take their picture with Jan. Everything there is kind of related to him, the town name and everything with that. This is the second high school. You see our kids visiting classrooms. And the Polish students are very excited to talk with our kids We found that most of the young people in Poland speak English. A lot of the adults speak Russian and Polish. Not as many speak English. And one of the things that was really eye-opening to the kids and to all of us is, the last Russian troops they shared with us left Poland in '92. So the parents of these kids that hosted our children were in high school when that changed over. So it's really fresh in a lot of people's minds, communism, occupation, and they've had about 33 years of freedom, and they really are proud of their country. It's a lot of the places meticulously clean, flowers in the yards, well manicured. The schools were very clean, so it was really interesting to see that. This was a day where they taught us how to make pierogies, and this was at one of the schools, and the kids had a lot of fun with that, and then they got to eat them all when they were done. So sausage and pierogies, a lot of sausage and pierogies there. When we went to the third high school, they wanted to play basketball, so we thought we were just going to shoot baskets and have fun. And we walked in, their varsity team was warming up, and they wanted to play us. And so I got a bunch of wrestlers with me, and Luke and Zoe and Camille were on the varsity basketball team. So we went out and played them. We lost, and Luke is injured. So he's still hobbling with a knee injury. But it was a lot of fun to play them. And the upper deck there filled up with students. They let them come down and watch them put a beating on us. So it was fun. And then they played volleyball after. One of the things they did is they put on a play for our kids when we got there, which was really, really cool. And they did it in 3 languages. So they did it in English, Spanish, and Polish. And this young man did his whole part in Spanish, and I just wanted you to kind of see that. It was really cool. Our kids were clapping, they were having fun. They really liked to perform at the first high school, which we stayed a lot at. This is the mayor on the right, and he was very proud to have the Fountain Hills kids here. He wore to a dinner later that night a Fountain Hills shirt, and was very excited about it. And my kid that stayed with me told me he was a smaller guy, so I brought him a medium, and he's never going to wear that shirt, but it's not my fault. But it was really cool to see the history. He was actually a former teacher, and they gave Chris the key to the city. I hope he gave it back. And, there's 11 sister cities they partner with, but only 2 do student exchanges, and there's us, that was 2014. So it was really cool to see that in their government building. It's really neat how it's a fortress city, so the whole city is built as a fortress, and it's completely engulfed by brick walls and secret passages, and very, very cool to see that. Our kids took a lot of tours. It's very green and very, very foresty and beautiful. It's quite different, obviously, than the desert here. These are some of our kids in Lublin, which was the next big city over. And we took a lot of hikes, a lot of walks, a lot of steps, and we saw a lot of war memorials. And that really set a tone for our kids of how much Poland really suffered in World War II and throughout its history. But there was a lot of World War II memorials throughout. One of the kids on the left, behind the student with the glasses, is Pavo. Pavo stayed with us, and him and the teacher, every time we had to count the kids, they made a little thing for him to walk under. And I thought it was a good idea. He's going to be a senior next year, but he took his role very seriously of keeping an eye on our kids in the big city. So we went to Krakow, we went to Warsaw. The kids loved the pigeons a lot, and caused some disturbances at times, getting them all to fly at one time. So I had to talk to them about that. Lots of churches. This was my favorite. It was in Krakow. It was just absolutely stunning. The picture doesn't do justice. It was absolutely beautiful. And the kids were so respectful everywhere we went. Again, in Krakow, that's the group, Polish and American students. It rained from time to time. One of the coolest things we did is go on a salt mine, and we brought a lot of salt home, but you could lick the walls, and you could taste the salt. And everything in there, from the floor to the ceiling to the structures, is all made of salt. And this was a church in the bottom of this salt mine,
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Okay, on to reports, starting out with student activity and auxiliary accounts from pages 16 to 37. And I did have I spoke to Mr. Hartman yesterday and had some questions. I don't know if you want to share what we talked about.
Look, I always mess the mic up here. Yesterday was a long time ago, Dr. Rakowski.
Okay, it was the balances that are in
yeah.
red, the negative
So
ones
the
for
negatives.
gifts and donations.
Right.
Yeah.
So once again, I should just have a button on my chest that I'll press each meeting. This is a snapshot. So it was June 1st or May 1st at 10 a.m. So you're going to see negatives in some of the cash accounts because it's like I took a picture of you at a party that you were at for 4 hours, and whatever your mood was at that moment, even though it was only a snapshot, was indicative of to whether you enjoyed the party or not. So we reconcile these. I've already journaled the negatives. You can see the line items in totality with all the reports. The bold numbers are the sum of 525, 526, and 850. So what I do each month is I go in and I say, see, okay, they went into the negative on donations. What was used in those donations, where it would be appropriate to, do I have to use M&O? Can you use tax credit or whatever? And I make sure and I check with Maricopa County that it's okay. And then we zero it out. And then at the end of fiscal, which is in 12 days, before we roll to the next fiscal, we'll make sure they're all zeroed out. So I don't know how else to explain it other than that. Each month you're going to see, because of when donations come in, when we spend the money, sometimes we get it in between, etc. That's why sometimes the accounts are negative, but then they always get zeroed out appropriately.
And let me add to that real quick. So I run a balance of our main accounts daily. Every day they're different. Okay, now they're not drastically different, but they're different. I've had Val Fernandez run me a balance in the same day, and they're different. So there's just so many transactions coming in and out, in and out, in and out. But if you look at, I believe one of them was like $200. I think it was it $200 negative? Okay. But in that counts, overall in that whole thing, there are thousands of dollars in there. So it may just not have caught up with the transaction in or out, and then over time, it either reconciles, or else then if there is a mistake made, and don't get me wrong, people make mistakes, they journal it wrong, they put the wrong code. The red is, I talked to the county about it this morning, the red is kind of like when you get, if you were to get some kind of notification from your bank that something happened, it's a notification to address it and fix it. But none of the accounts are ever at a point where they can't be paid or anything like that. They're just in that snapshot for a moment, we paid something and maybe a reimbursement hasn't come through. For example, we have two accounts that are larger that both have about $40,000 payments coming still in June that haven't come through yet. Now, neither of those accounts are negative. They're both positive and healthy. But if we spent some money before that came in, there could be a gap in that window. But it doesn't mean that there's no money in the account. That's what we want to be clear about, especially with those smaller ones. When you see an account that's minus, now if it's minus 25, 50,000, then yeah, then you got a problem there we got to look at. But if they're small ones like that, those are going to happen, unfortunately.
The confusion for me, I guess, is the account where it's coming from, the gifts and donations. I don't feel like that's one that we used to see negative ever. And I'm curious as to why that is now, and it might just be the easiest way to code things or whatever is causing it, but from my understanding, gifts and donations is a cash-controlled account, which means there's not necessarily the reimbursements, it's a set number. Are we putting money in there that's not a gift or donation and using it as a flexible spending account, and is that why it's going negative?
No.
Or how are we going negative in gifts and donations, and where do we pull from to refill gifts and donations?
So I'll go back to what I just explained. In all the line items, so there's the auxiliary gifts and donations, there's district office gifts and donations, There's all different accounts. Some things are appropriate, like I just said, there's always M&O if you have to reimburse, but as we talked about, I don't use M&O unless I have to. So today, for example, I checked with the county and I said, what expenses that caused this to go negative can I pull from to replenish? So I used district office, give some donations to replenish whatever that account was, so.
So when it shows 530, that's the like fund that it comes from, right? Gifts and donations is 530. So then do we have it split into district, this is the amount of the
Yes.
gifts and donations for
Yes.
district? And so now we're pulling the money from there to,
Which we're
Right,
allowed
other
to do, yeah,
areas,
for a
okay.
site, yeah.
And it may be, they're unclear on the donation. So for example, we just got one from alumni for 16,000, okay? If they don't specify, then, we typically would put that, maybe in the district one and then maybe use that for some project that one of the principals wants to do or something like that. But if you look at the overall gifts and donations accounts and add them up, there's money in the accounts. It's just the elementary one in that report at
so
that time.
Yes, so
Yeah.
the general gifts and donations funds have essentially been
Yes.
depleted?
No.
Overdrawn?
No.
Because they're, like, for the elementary, the general gifts and donations fund, it's showing ending balance of negative 2,453.
Right, so then they've used theirs up at that moment on June 1st.
But where are we gonna get that 2,000 from? Is it coming from
From
somewhere
another
else,
gifts and donations that wasn't specified, correct.
Okay.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Holmley had a question about line items and why some don't have a line item for tax credit. My answer at the moment, which I'm 99% sure is correct, because he's not like you, Dr. Witkowski, you can call me the day before, is that as I look through the accounts, these accounts have been almost exactly the same since I've started. Occasionally, a tax credit line item appears. So when we get a donation that's specific for tax credit, it's coded to that course. So if there's a line item where there's no tax credit, or a course where there's no tax credit, and all of a sudden we get a donation on Monday that says, I want this tax credit specifically to go towards, let's just pretend for a second band didn't have it, which they do. But then, since that code is in Visions, and I get these reports directly from Visions, it's going to be coded 530 towards that course, and the line item appears on the next report. So when you don't even see a line item for tax credit, that means that no one's ever specified, I want to put it in. If you look at the sports, they all have them because coaches go out and players go out and say, hey, donate your tax credits towards soccer or whatever. So when you don't see the line item, now when you see the line item with a dash, it means there's no money in there, or zero. But when you don't see the line item at all, it means it's never been coded, or there's never been a reason to code it because no one's specified.
One more follow-up question. So in the other accounts where there is like a healthy balance for gifts and donations, is that not movable or is that movable?
No, our understanding is yes.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you look at the district one, in May, it looks like 24,000 in that account. And then, that doesn't include the 16,000 we just got. We get donations all the time, so it's always moving. And so what principals would use that money for is things that are, maybe don't fit into other areas, that you can't use it for. So,
it's a little more flexible spending, I
Yeah,
would
because,
imagine. Okay.
especially when it's not designated anyway, yes.
Yeah, you got to remember, when you're looking at these reports, it's like we're in a time warp. You're looking at what the numbers were June 1st at 9 a.m. You're not looking at June 18th.
Right.
So,
And a lot of tax credit comes in general with no specification either. And so sometimes they'll put high school and then leave it blank, or sometimes middle school and leave it blank. But we get like a lot of art and a lot of music, and they don't, a lot of the art doesn't get spent. So, you know, we can't tell people what to do with it, but sometimes we accumulate more and more and more in areas that, and those are harder to use when obviously when someone tells you this is what it needs to be for. So if it's general and it's undesignated, then according to the county, there's some flexibility with that, yes.
Thank you.
Don't you have a couple of years that if it's not used, it could be moved or not?
The tax credit.
And- Right.
There's some,
Statute.
and there's also some things with, like, we have boys volleyball has money in their account, but there's no boys volleyball. It hasn't been since I was principal. So in those situations, if you're gonna close those out, it goes through student government, and then there's a process that you follow to go through that. But overall, like I said, I mean, when you look at the reports today versus years ago, they're much more accurate and clean. There's gonna be some times where those happen, and Chris will always bring you an explanation to why that is. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
There's
Anyone
an
else?
awful lot in that, so we gotta figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Because that keeps growing and growing.
There's a lot of art.
we're going to have Mr. Salzman take a class since his drawing wasn't very good.
Okay. All right, next up is the unaudited financial report. And again, there are some, negative budget balances here, but I think this is because there's an encumbrance and the money hasn't been reimbursed yet, essentially.
Yeah, and it's, again, we do a lot of reimbursement requests, reconciling this time of year, so you're going to see that. And if you look at the top, you remember where we were in M&O and whatever at the beginning of the year. I think we've come a long way, but with grants, Krista is working real hard to reconcile, and I'm involved from a journaling standpoint with reimbursement requests, et cetera, almost daily right now, and I would imagine that'll continue for a while. So again, this was June 1st at a moment in time.
And you gotta remember on some of these with encumbrances, it's out of the account, but it's not because it hasn't been spent yet, okay? And so even the M&O budget, when I met with the county this morning, there's still a couple $100,000 of encumbrances that are probably not gonna be spent, obviously, in the next week. So, or all the bills for those have come through, and we over budgeted for those services. And as those get closed out, then the M&O balance grows because they're not encumbered anymore. So that's pretty normal. That's what I was talking about with their balances shift throughout the day as bills are paid, as invoices come through, and as deposits from the county come through frequently all the time from different, and interest. That's the other thing. Like some of these accounts will grow a couple $1,000s in, well, when I left for Poland, when I came back, some of our accounts were different. I said, how? And she said, it's just interest. That's how they went up. So you have those factors into. So it's hard to, you rarely see account stay pretty similar unless it's something like a student activity account that never gets used. Okay?
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Mr. Hart. Okay, next up is the Fountain Hills History and Culture Advisory Commission presentation. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Rutkowski and members of the board. I'm Tim Yoder, and this is Peter Gallagher, and we're with the Town of Fountain Hills History and Advisory Commission. We're here to propose a project for the students of Fountain Hills Unified School District for this coming year. And Peter is going to talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. The reason we're here today, I taught here for 20 years, and I know what it's like to be a teacher. We really like lead notice and plenty of time to plan. And we're asking for your support in this project, and we would like to come back to the school, the principals, the superintendent, you all, if necessary, in the fall, as we want to kick this off, what he'll talk about that. We believe that this local history project, it's a local history project, is going to really work well with this coming year's national focus on history as we approach Independence Day of next year and our 250th birthday. So we're kind of trying to piggyback on the excitement of the past, but in terms of Fountain Hills. So, Peter, please.
Okay. Dr. J, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, members of the audience. My name is Peter Gallagher, and I'm here with Tim, the chairman of the HCAC, to talk about a couple of things. The first of those things, as he said, is that we would like your support for this contest that we'd like to put on in the fall. And actually, that was the second one, was to ask for your support. The first was to just tell you about the contest. The question comes up, why would you want to support this? I can think of two reasons. Number one, especially after that last discussion, is it costs the school district nothing. The town pays for whatever has to be paid for. And second, it's a chance to continue the children's education outside of their regular school day and have a little bit of fun doing it while they do some research about our local area. Let's see if this works. There we go. So what we're proposing is, as Tim said, a history and art contest, history essay and art contest, the winners of which will be given presentations at a town council meeting. Hopefully we'll be able to put up the winning artwork, and I'm not sure how we would display it, but possibly the essays as well at the community center. Wow, that doesn't look the way it was supposed to. I'm sorry about that. And the cool thing for me is that we're also probably going to give the winners a gift card so that they, that's something for them to really try to win.
Maybe some fame and glory on the town website.
Right, that would be good. So the first, these don't look at all the way they were supposed to. I apologize for that. They looked great before. It's the font that has changed. So the first part of the contest is a visual arts contest. What we're asking the kids to do is to look at one of three topics which you would have been able to read if this were the right font, so I'll read them to you. What makes Fountain Hills important to you? The fountain and Fountain Park, or a historical person or group of people of Fountain Hills or Fort McDowell. Those are the three topics that we're proposing. The students can either submit a sketch or a drawing, a painting, any kind of a visual art, even including a video if they choose to do that, as long as it's no more than 3 minutes long. And you'll see that there's a size limitation for anything else that we'd ask them to present. Now, for art, you don't want kids from kindergarten to senior in high school competing against each other. So to make it fair, we'll break it up into about 4 categories, from kindergarten to 2nd grade, 3rd grade to 6th grade, or 3rd to 5th, 6th to 9th, 10th to 12th. I think those edges may get tweaked a little bit before the fall gets here, but we'll make sure there are 4 categories. They will submit their original work of art on any of those 3 topics, and I already talked about that paragraph, so I'll go to the next slide. The other part of the contest is an essay contest, and this is a chance for the older kids, 6th to 12th grade, to exhibit their ability to do some research and their writing skills as well, and to present something about the history of Fountain Hills. And again, the topics are chopped off at the bottom, so I'll read them to you. Write about a historic person or people from Fountain Hills or Fort McDowell. What would I put into a time capsule from Fountain Hills? Or what would a cowboy from the P-Bar Ranch think if he saw Fountain Hills today? So those are the things they could write about. It could be either an actual historical event or occurrence that answers one of those questions, or it could be a fiction but based on historical research that the students would have done. Okay, let's go to the next one. So judging the contest, you have to have judges, and the History and Culture Advisory Commission will be the judges for the contest. What we propose is that we'll be looking at historical information included in their submission, and also how their storytelling skills come through, or how their artistic ability comes through, their artistic expression, as you might say. As I mentioned, we'll be breaking down into appropriate age groups and judging the entries in 4 groups for the art, 1 group for the essay contest. And then they'll be judged by the commission. The top 3 entries in each category or age group will be chosen, and the ones that give us the greatest impression of whichever historical event or person the student chooses to focus on will be the winners. The overall intent is to pick the entries that best represent Fountain Hills and Fort McDowell history. So you also have to have rules. And I was not going to read all of these, but you can't see all of them. Let's see. I think you can see everything except for the subnotes under the bottom one. And basically, you only get to submit 1 time, either 1 art piece or 1 essay. The submission, there's some other administrative rules there that you can read. And then you have to cite everything. There has to be a title on every entry. We do not want the name of the author or the artist, because that might influence somebody who might know some of the contestants, and we don't want that to happen. Even the art projects have to have a title on an index card or a label or something. And then all the entries become the property of the town of Fountain Hills. What you can't read on there, but I can read on my notes, is that the commission or the town of Fountain Hills would be able to reprint the essays in publications or online, and may use them at workshops, but we would have to give appropriate citations about anything that we use in the town. Finally, what are we asking of you? Well, for the kids and for their families and friends, it's to have fun. What we're asking of you, the members of the board, is your approval so that we can do this contest here in the school district. And administrators and teachers, what we're asking for is your support around the campus, in the classrooms, really to try to talk it up, jump on the bandwagon, and try to sell this thing to all of the students who might enjoy submitting an entry into the contest. In closing, I want to thank you for your time and your attention, and Tim and I will answer any questions that you might have at this point.
What is the time frame for this?
We'd like to kick it off and say, let the students know it's a go before the Christmas break. And our due date would be in early March or so. So they'll have a lot of significant time. They don't have to do it in class. However, as you may have noticed, it's really a cross-curricular type of thing. History teachers, English teachers, the art. So we've got a big broad spectrum of teachers that can theoretically encourage it, support it, that kind of thing. May is Historic Preservation Month every year. It's National Historic Preservation Month. So we'll get that in March, do the judging, be able to award the kids before the school year is out, and then boom, then it's May. So that's kind of what we're hoping.
Any other questions?
Can I just add one thing? I'm glad to hear this, and we appreciate your help, and maybe calling on you next year, because one thing I'm working on with some people in Rotary and the Chamber is to create a unit in, at a minimum, a unit in junior Arizona U.S. history class on the Fountain Hills, Fort McDowell area. So a history unit on our local history. So, so I'd love for you guys to be part of that and help with that. And we thought it could be maybe like a 1 to 2 week unit on the history of this area. So we'll be bringing something to you next year, and this would fit nicely with that as we get it off the ground.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
I just want to make a comment. I think this is really awesome, and I think it's a really good opportunity for us to focus on all of the strengths and great things about Fountain Hills, and especially with our small district and things like that. We're trying to really sell people on our school district, so I think it's really great. My only thought would be how it could fit into the curriculum that our teachers already have, or if it's something that would be extra on them and how they feel about it. But I think that this is a
It would be
neat
very similar to
opportunity.
the essay contest we do, and they do that through English, so I know our socialist teachers would be open to doing that. I don't see any issues.
Awesome. Thank you.
I suspect that the teachers could allow students to do it as part of their classwork. or
Absolutely.
not, if they
Yep.
choose to.
Yep.
Okay.
I'd like to add one final thing. It's public record, but I don't know if it's much talked about. But we have just applied to, at the national level, to have the fountain marked as a National Historic Landmark. Well, this is a process that's going to take some months, but we're hoping that that'll be all set up too, and the decision will be affirmative in the spring next year, right in time for that Independence Day thing.
Great.
So that'll be great.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the public hearing on the adopted budget for 2025-2026. So I move that we suspend the regular meeting to conduct that public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Sorry for the delay. One last note, I forgot to mention, which I was going to at the very beginning. Next year's our 250th anniversary of independence, and we thought this would tie in well with that. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. J's been to every one of those. President Rakowski, Vice President Reed, board members, you heard my presentation 2 weeks ago, seems like yesterday. State statute says that I cannot change anything from the proposed to be adopted, so it is exactly the same as the document you voted on 2 weeks ago. Just here to answer any questions if there are any, or clarify anything, but I said everything a couple of weeks ago, and again, it does stay exactly the same. Vice President Reed, the packet on your dais there was from 2 weeks ago. And no one wanted to read it in the interim, surprisingly, so it just sat there. Any questions?
And maybe if you might want to kind of highlight, we had talked about yesterday too, about
Oh, yeah.
the potential budget, how much the budget dropped.
Yeah, so
this
we made cuts, as you know, is well documented. Not everything comes out of M&O. And so it won't like show in black and white there, you know, and we also, like I said at the last meeting, we do make cuts, and then because of enrollment or special ed, et cetera, there's the need to hire more personnel. And remember, this is a very conservative budget. We haven't, at least I check every few hours on a Prop 123 update. Haven't gotten one yet. So we've, like I said, again, on the 4th, we're budgeting as if we're not going to get that. And then if we do, it's a bonus. Again, if you look at the ADM 920, that may be accurate, it may not be. So we'll have a better, we kind of huddled about it today, we'll have a much better idea after the first 10 days of school. And by then we should know what state aid we're getting, if any. So you can look for a revision September-ish, that's a little more updated. I don't want to say accurate, because it's accurate now, but we don't have all the information now. So this is where we are.
And just, I want to add, there's a couple factors that could change some things positively. So this is worst case scenario is the way I look at this, okay? And then we still have money in reserves on top of the worst case scenario. So the legislature, to my knowledge, has not finalized the change to the base support limit, okay? So,
I think the Senate proposed something today.
yes,
They
so,
did today.
yeah, it hasn't been approved yet. So it has to, minimum has to be 2%, and that is not factoring in the 2%, and it's not factoring in if it goes above that. So that's one thing that will change things positively. Second one is what the enrollment comes in. I go either way, but, you know, we estimated kind of in the middle, so time will tell on that. Like Chris said, within 10 days, we should have a pretty good idea. Once we get through the first 10 days, our enrollment pretty much stays. Usually, in the last couple of years, it's grown as the year's gone on more than declined, okay? So that'll give us a possibility. Like this year, we had 30 more kids than we expected. So that comes into, it'd be 150, 200,000 more than what we budgeted for. So if that happens again, that helps. And then Prop 123, last year was about $80,000 we received. So if that goes up to 100, say, or something like that, that also counters in. And then lastly is, that doesn't mean we're spending that money. That's our budget capacity. So that hasn't been spent. That is, once you pay all your salaries, you got about $3 million to operate the district. And this year we spent about 2.9. Okay, we had some bad things happen this year. We hope they don't happen again. We had a lot of air conditioning issues, as you're aware. We had school closed several times due to that. And I'm hoping that a lot of the maintenance we did, we won't see again this year. But air conditioning was down this week. And it was a pump, and the pump may be replaced. And it was not a huge cost, but the pump had to be replaced. And so we did a good job this year of being very, I believe, very cautious about how we spent money, especially on the capital side and also on the M&O side. So worst case scenario is that if you spend all of that, then you're going to be dipping into our reserves a little bit. And we talked about that when we did budget cuts. We talked about keeping a few positions that were possibly up for a cut to maintain the district. And we talked a lot about, and I did with each of you individually, about do you want to cut something when you have the money in reserves and cause maybe some kind of drama that you don't need, right? So first grade, I'll give you an example. First grade is trending right now at a minimum of 66 kids, okay? So we cut it to 2. That's 33 a class in first grade, right? Now, could we do that? Yes. Are we going to get 4 or 5 more first graders before the first 10 days are up? I think there's a possibility of that. So now you're talking about 35, 36 in a class. So I opened the 3rd section of first grade, and we did that. We have the money to do those things, and we're doing it cautiously where it's needed. Some of the other ones I'm holding strong. Kindergarten is at 2 sections. I do not see us going over 50, that'd be 25 in a section. That's normal in almost every district in Arizona. So we are holding the ground on some of those, but there is reserve money. I went through it all today after 2 weeks gone, went through every account with the county today, and it was all there, and some of them went up because of interest. And now that we're closing out the year, those numbers are kind of final, so that's good. And I'm hoping that I'm hoping we can break even on this year's budget and not use any reserves, but I'm being honest with you up front, that there may be a couple $100,000 needs to come out of reserves to make the year work, but we also could have cut more, and we did decide not to, and that's okay. We need to maintain a strong level of service for our kids and give them the best environment we can, and we are doing that knowing that we have some money in reserve to do that. So hopefully that gives you a little peace of mind.
But if I could add to that, Dr. J was told not to say the word air conditioning out loud, but he did it superstitious. No, as former principals, hiring is easier in May and June than it is on August 15th. So there's a certain amount of prediction we have to do in terms of if we think we're going to need someone. It's tough to find good help in the fall, right?
And think about the opposite. You don't hire that first grade teacher now. August comes around, you have crowded classes, no one's there to hire. You end up putting a sub in there, and you have a line of parents here telling you that this ain't working. So sometimes we have to take a risk to maintain the level of educational excellence that we expect in our schools. And so we do that from time to time. I think all the other schools are pretty set with their staffing unless we have an influx of kids where we don't see coming. That'd be great. It would be a great problem to have. But I think we're pretty set on staffing. Most of the schedules are finalized and look good. And I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, well, and I think we can have that confidence because you guys have been conservative and you've been very smart in how you've approached things. And so I think that we've put ourselves in a good position to where if you need to pull money from reserves, you can do that confidently. If you need to hire more people, you can do that confidently.
Yeah.
So I've been really impressed and really proud of our team for what they've done because in the end, even though we've had tough decisions to make, I think you've done it well and we've
Thank
put
you.
ourselves in a good position to move forward. And
Thank
I think
you.
you can do that confidently. And
Yeah,
I'm
we
proud of
appreciate
you guys.
that.
Thank you.
We do. Thank you. Any other questions?
And do we have any public comments, Krista, on this, or no? Any other questions from the board? No? Okay. All right. I make a motion that we can reconvene the regular meeting. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to the public hearing on the instructional time model for 2025-2026. And again, I'll make a motion that we suspend the regular meeting to conduct that public hearing on the instructional time model. Do I have a second? Madison, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Dr. Rakowski, members of the board and guests, thank you. I just want to point out, Krista did an excellent job of explaining the instructional time model. So I told her I was going to make her do it again tonight, but no, I'm kidding. I did watch that part later when I got back because she was a little nervous about it. She did a great job. So what we're proposing in the instructional time model, for those that maybe don't understand what that means, after COVID, the state allowed for school districts to be creative in how they provide instruction to students. And some examples of that could be a night class, a weekend class, kids working from home virtually. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it and still maintain your funding and still maintain your ADM. So one of the things, as I've shared with you individually, is that as we head into year 4 as a team of administrators, we're starting to get now into some things that we've been wanting to address that we just haven't had time to, okay, with all the other things we had to deal with over the last couple of years. And one of the things that has been a concern for me is the online school and students taking class online. And you see it in the enrollment reports in and out all the time of the schools. So what we are proposing in the instructional time model is to use the online school only for, basically only for students who are in discipline situations, who are in an alternative to expulsion, long-term suspended, where they can't come on campus, and keep it to that. We would then have all the kids who are in FHVA enroll in their school and be students of that school, but then the instructional time model, the way we wrote it, and with your approval, gives the principal the ability to let them work virtually from home in whatever platform we decide, which will be coming up in August, a vote on a platform. And they're members of that school working in an alternative pathway through parent and principal approval and superintendent approval. And I believe this will lessen the number of kids working online, and I've been trying to get all the kids back in person. We do not plan to offer any K-5 online. We just think they really need to be in school, okay? And we have some we're going to allow that are in the online school and middle school. If it's a good fit and we meet with the parents and Dr. Wheeldryer agrees that that's a good fit for them, they will be able to remain. And we'll do the same at the high school. So we're really trying to move this to a special situation. It could be anxiety, it could be doctor's note, it could be they're a professional gymnast and they just can't get to school. There's a lot of things that we can do. But it cleans it up for us from managing it'd be a fifth campus virtually. It'll take a lot off of Kim Garman and a lot off of everyone else. I did talk to the Department of Ed with Krista earlier this week just to verify that what we're doing is not going to be an issue for us. And I have confirmation that this is okay to do. And with your approval, we will be able to have kids still work online, but be part of their home school. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Right. I think that's very logical. I do have a question on another kind of picky thing, which I raised at the last meeting. The elementary school schedule, this is on page 54 of our packet. So on a regular school day, the lunch and recess are 40 minutes, and on the early release, it's 45, which kind of strikes me as odd. Why on an early release would they have a longer, and could that 5 minutes be better spent restoring it to some of the instructional time?
I think it's a typo. There's supposed to be 45 on all. We moved all lunches to 45 to be equitable to all teachers in the district. So just to give you a little history, when I became principal in 2016 at the high school, the lunch was 30 minutes long, and we had kids going off campus, as you're aware, so I moved it to 45 so they're not rushed. And we've kept it that way since. We moved the middle school to that 2 years ago, and the elementary was sitting at 30-minute lunch. So to make it equitable to all employees, we moved it to 45. So they still have to walk their kids, and it's still, probably not a full 45, but it's closer. So I talked to Val Reichler about it because I was told that you had a concern, and it's just, I believe it's a typo.
And on the middle school, it says 30 minutes for lunch.
30, yeah.
She's not counting. Her schedule's not done, first of all, so she's working on it. And second of all, sometimes they count the passing period and sometimes they don't. So like on the high school schedule, I know when I was principal, it may have showed only, we had 7-minute passing back then, so 14. So it may have been only like, the lunch looked like it was like 30 minutes, but it was really 45 with the passing period. So we will clean that up and make sure it's equitable and that it's correct before we submit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we vote to approve it later, we'll have to amend or make that notation?
I don't think the schedules change.
I think, like you said, it's just not, because it's not counting, like, third period ends at 10:06, lunch starts at 10:11.
Yes.
So I think it's not counting that passing period or like
Yes.
those few minutes on.
Okay.
So I think it's probably about accurate.
And we will, I'm sure something will come up that will bring you the time model again next year. I mean, just get used to it. Remember, I also changed it to include some time for EVIT to get us full funding for EVIT by allowing that 40 minutes when they get back as instructional time. So we will unfortunately be bringing this back to you next year with something. If the schedules change enough to where the state says we have to reapprove it, we'll bring it back, but I don't think that'll be the case. I don't.
Okay,
I
any
wanna
other
say
comments? Or?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciate the changes. I think it is important to try and keep students on campus whenever we can.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the accommodations, so I thought that was just an insightful change here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any public comments on this one? Bernie, go ahead.
Going back to your comment about virtual students and courses, there was an article in the Times today, and it was right at the very end of the article making a statement about that, but I'm not sure it was very clear as to where you just explained it. So it might be good to get together with the
Sure.
reporter and talk.
And just so you know, one of the things we have to do with our schedule is if a student is working virtually at home, they still have to have a schedule that shows what they're working on. It can't just say virtual at home. If they're working in PLP or, we have one on display right now, I'm drawing a blank, Edgenuity. So if Edgenuity is selected, they'll have on their schedule social studies, English, math, science, elective, and the parents have to submit time. And the program will also collect time as well. So that's in the instruction timeout, how we will do that. I also have been clear with everyone that I would like to see a change in software provider, and that's why we have one on display now. And we'll see how that goes over the next 30 or whatever 40 days we have left on that. And that'll be coming to you the first meeting in August for a possible approval. And then we definitely want to make sure if kids are doing school online, that is still rigorous because they're getting a diploma from the Fountain Hills School District. It has to mean something. It has to make sure that it is rigorous as possible. And so that's one of the reasons we're looking at the change is to bring some more depth to what the kids are learning. And in some cases, they'll be the teacher of record and they'll have the ability in certain cases to work with those teachers through Zoom and different things throughout the school day when our teachers aren't available. So it'll be more powerful for some of the parents.
And I do like that, and I mentioned this last time, that it's included with EBIT, that we now found out how we can get them to be 100% in school, where
Yes.
before they weren't counted.
We're trying to find every dollar we can.
Yeah.
I promise you.
That's a good thing.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, I move that we reconvene the regular meeting. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're back to the regular meeting. Public comments, do we have any? Nope, no public comments. Okay, on to action items. Starting out, page 62, the personnel action report. Any questions about that one?
I move we approve the personnel action report.
Okay.
A second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next is the payroll vouchers, starting on page 65 through 69. Any questions about that? If not, I'll move that we approve the payroll vouchers. Do I have a second?
I said,
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The adopted budget, fiscal year 26 adopted budget.
I move we approve the adopted budget.
A second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Next to housekeeping items. So can we do all of these as a consent agenda, or yes? Oh, good. So this is for page 71 through 102. Are there any questions about any of those before we make a motion to approve the whole bunch of housekeeping items?
This includes the sole source, right? I just wanted to say thank you for keeping that list short. I remember when I first started, it was significantly longer, and so I'm just proud of our district again. Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you. We appreciate that.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve all of these housekeeping items in item D there.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. On to extracurricular activities, page 103. Just advance my thing here so I'm keeping up to speed.
Dr. Kowski, members of the board, yes, just like the instructional timeout, you're going to see that one many times throughout the year. Just small changes as people make shifts in their fees.
Mine doesn't have the, any
Is there any
red thing that shows the difference, so
any
I
shift?
didn't
Yeah.
know what the
Yeah,
change
I
was.
apologize for not
Yeah. Okay.
providing a red line copy. The only changes were to some class fees at the high school that went from $25 to $30. And then athletics went to
50. It went to what you approved, at the $50.
Yeah, the
Right.
$250 per
Right.
square.
and that was approved
Mhm.
previously.
Right.
Thank you.
And then there were some that were removed. I don't think any were added. I apologize for that.
No worries, thank you.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the 2025-2026 extracurricular activities.
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up is the overnight and out-of-state field trip for cross-country. Any questions about that?
I I move that we approve the overnight and out-of-state field trip for the cross-country.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Next up is a thing near and dear to our heart, Policy Services Advisory. So we had spoken about this before, 863, the first one on item G there, 863 to 865. I don't think there were any concerns or issues. Only changes were secondary to changes in state law. And then in the other, so actually we need to go to that one first. So I'll move that we approve policy advisories 863 to 865. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, on next one, policy advisories 866 to 875. And there's a couple things here that, well, I'll alert you to that we had discussed before. So the first is on page 125 of our packet, under section CB, superintendent, and it's highlighted so that that will remain as shall, because it means you have to. Will is not as strong as shall legally, so that's one thing. The other one is on page 133. And that's the grammatical thing that we talked about last time, is, the singular and the plural and all that stuff. So this is that it'll remain, let me just highlight this, make sure I get this right. It will be board members fail to achieve consensus, so that it makes sense grammatically. Other than that, everything else is good as is. So unless there are any questions.
You were saying that we were going to leave it as shall instead of will on that
Yeah,
version? Okay.
because that means it's more, that it has to be done. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? If not, I'll move that we approve policy advisories 866 to 875 with those two corrections or changes as indicated. I have a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. All right, on to the updated title on district administration salary schedule, page 155.
Yeah, Dr. Rukowski, members of the board and guests, this is just the title. I just want to be clear, there's nothing changing to it. It's just the title of the document.
So to be clear, is it the red part on that form, or is it the title at the top?
I don't have my board packet open, so.
What page?
155, is it?
Yeah, 155.
155 and 156.
Yeah.
District management is in red, is that?
So that'll be, yes. So it'll now be called district management. Prior to that was called executive assistant, because I was the only one on that salary schedule.
Okay.
And our new district accounts finance manager now falls on that schedule as well.
Doesn't make sense.
So we
it doesn't
made the
make sense to
change.
just call it executive assistant, so.
So that paragraph on the right side of that page, it still says executive assistant.
Yeah.
Should that still be there for
No.
I
a
think that
future
paragraph is
change?
just
Or
explaining what the
Who's
change
in
was.
it?
Yeah, it's saying who's included
Yeah.
under district
Yeah,
management.
so that
Okay.
won't be on the
Oh, gotcha.
document.
It's just, it's
Yeah.
just an
Those
explanation from
positions.
HR.
Yeah.
All
It'll
right.
be deleted.
Any other questions about that? Okay, I'll move that we approve the updated title on the district administration salary schedule. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up is the job description for mechanic. And actually, I do have a question about this one.
Okay.
Page 159, on page 159 of our packet. So under education, experience, knowledge, and skills, it's kind of in the middle of the page there. It has the requirements, high school diploma, fine. Then it says 5 to 7 years of experience in commercial and or public school transportation is necessary, with at least 3 to 5 years of mechanical experience, including a minimum of 3 years of diesel experience. So my question is that too restrictive? Obviously, you want someone with experience, but I don't know what the supply of people is, and are we potentially excluding people that have less experience but really know what they're doing?
I agree, Dr. Rakowski. I think we could change it to preferred and leave it the way it is, and then give us flexibility. Ms. Brown worked on this while I was in Poland because we have an opening, we need to get it going. So I think a lot of times what she does is works with other districts and they share what others do. And I think that's a good opportunity for us to put preferred qualifications, and then it gives us the flexibility to, if we have somebody we feel strong can do the work, to be able to do it. So I think that's a good addition.
Okay, so then we would change that section to not is necessary, or necessary would be changed to preferred.
Preferred, yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments about that one? If not, then I'll move that we approve that with the change from the word necessary to preferred.
A second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. On to supplemental reading material for the elementary school, middle school, and high school, page 162. Any questions about that one? If not, who would like to make a motion to approve?
I so move.
Who would like to second? Anybody?
A second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to supplemental reading for the high school, The Life of Pi. And as I had expressed previously, and I think others have chimed in too on that, I think it's fine to approve this, but I think it really should be limited to junior and senior honors English to make sure that the students are given appropriate guidance and instruction in some of the content of this, so they make sure they understand it. I don't think younger students not in honors would totally appreciate it, so I'd like to make that suggested limitation on the Life of Pi to approve for junior and senior honors English.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I second.
Okay.
Krista, did
Any
you,
discussion?
just clarification, did you ever find out when they want to use it, what grade level? Or you didn't find out?
Yeah,
from
I
them?
know, I told you guys that night. They had requested it for 9th grade and above.
Yeah.
So,
But they typically do most books 9th grade above, so it's open to the whole high school. So putting parameters on it, I don't see as an issue.
Okay. Any discussion about that?
No.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Next up is the EVIT IGA amendment, page 166 and 167.
I have instructional time model next.
Me too.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the instructional time model, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for catching me. No, it's the I'm trying to avoid it. It's like, okay, instructional time model. Any other questions, or are we ready for a motion on that?
I move we approve the instructional time model.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now the EVIT IGA amendment.
Dr. Kowski, members, board, and guests, I have our CT director, Allison Minkum, here to give you an update. She's been watching this very closely, working very hard on it, and she will explain it much better than I can, so.
I don't know about that. You were just so excited to get to this one.
I tell you, it's
Right?
like,
Just skip
or I was
over
wanting to
everything
avoid
else.
the instructional time.
So every 3 years, we have to renew our IGA with EVIT, and this year is that year. There are 11 satellite districts that feed into EVIT. We are one of the lucky ones. We really appreciate our partnership with EVIT, but this IGA has proven to be a little bit more difficult. So there has been some back and forth. We have Denise Lowell-Britt, who has been helping to represent us and has done an amazing job. Just to give a little background information also, we have about 60 students who are signed up and registered to go to either the main campus or to Power Campus this next coming school year. But we also, on our campus, we have, as a satellite district, we have digital communications, and we also have sports med, 1 and 2 on both of those. We have both sections. And that services about 70 to 80 students total. So this IGA directly affects both our satellite campus, those programs, and also any other CTE programs that we decide that we want to also offer to our students. But it also affects all of those students that are going to the campuses at EVIT. So since we're at the end of our IGA. It's completed on June 30th, but we're not quite at a consensus. So we are asking for an extension until July 31st so that we can continue to talk with EVIT and figure out, basically come to an agreement so that all parties are happy with it. So what you have in your packet, there are 2 things in there. One is to allow Dr. J to be able to sign that extension agreement. The other one, I've talked with the other CTE directors. They have not signed the SPED agreement yet. That will be part of the IGA, so we can wait on that one. If you want to authorize him to sign it now, that's fine. But we offer our own SPED services to our students. That's not something that we put on the CTED, on EVIT. So that will be up to you. I don't know if Dr. J had more to speak to that.
No, I would say we hold off on signing anything until there's an agreement made. And just in the emails I received in Poland, trying to keep up with things, the other 10 school districts are affected, I think, a little bit more than us because of their size. So you look at Chandler, these big districts, we're small. So the impact on them is really great. And there's been a lot of back and forth on this IGA centered around certain items that the schools are taking issue with. And so collectively, all 11 districts have not signed anything at this time. And all 11 districts are using their council to work on this for them. And ours is through the trust. And Denise is our SPED attorney and does the JTED. So at this time, we need to get an extension in so we can continue to negotiate and work towards a better IGA. And Allison can give you specifics on the details that the other 10 districts are struggling with, if you'd like.
So are you suggesting that we approve this?
I'm suggesting we approve the extension for me to continue to work on it, but we don't approve the SPED or any final IGA agreements until it is all worked out down the road.
Well, the SPED was removed from our agenda.
Yes,
so we can't.
thank you.
Yeah, we can't.
Yeah. So there's a couple sticking points with the IGA, if you want to just hit on those real quick.
Yes, I'd like to hear about that.
If you want more information, the best place to get that is if you go to EVIT's site and go to their board meeting from last week. During the public comments, a number of superintendents, CFOs, CTE directors all spoke to all of the different points. I think probably about 15 different people really spoke to very specific items. One of the big items, so there's pass-through funding that we receive for our students on campus. So for that sports med and for digital communications, we get some money from the state, but it passes through EVIT. And right now we get 87% of that. The proposal that EVIT has right now would drop it to 70%. Again, like Dr. J said, we are small, so it doesn't affect us a lot, but money is money, and we could really use anything that we can get. Who it really affects are the larger districts that would be pulling from, and so we'd like to stand with them as well to make sure that they're getting all the funding that they need. So that's one of the big sticking points. They also, in their proposal, they wanted to have any money that we have spent on materials or supplies or even technology, they want to be property of EVIT so that EVIT can take that back also. EVIT also holds back, it's called from a 596 fund. They have close to $50 million that they are holding from all of the districts. The reason is a lot of districts are that's kind of a piggy bank that they're waiting on to pull from for new programs that they want to start up, because there's a lot of cost associated with starting a new program. So EVIT is looking at that as, well, we may not need as much money, so they are looking at us relinquishing some of that money or even giving it to other districts. So we're trying to hammer out those details to make sure that all of the districts are getting the money that they are allotted and are supposed to be getting. So a lot of it has to do with the money, but it also has to do with just even like the programs that we already have going. One of the other issues is teacher qualifications. They want to be able to oversee that, and they don't call it micromanaging, but it looks a lot like trying to micromanage the teachers that we have and holding them to a higher expectation than we are held to at the state. So those are just a couple of the points, but I don't want to get into more of the weeds because it's still all being hammered out, and I don't know if these are really going to become non-issues. Again, if you want to hear more specifics, if you go to the EVIT board meeting from last week, you can hear some of the other points that were made. So again, I also want to clarify, we really, really like our partnership with EVIT. We love having that for our students, and we're just trying to make sure that all parties involved are going to be happy with the IGA.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? Okay, thank you. All right, so who would like to make a motion for this?
Okay, let me make sure I word this correctly.
Yeah.
So
That's why I'm letting you do
I
it.
move that we authorize the superintendent to continue negotiations on the EVIT IGA amendment.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second.
Well, it's also for a signature for him to sign.
And authorize him to sign
The
whatever
extension.
agreement he
This
reaches.
agreement, and if there are any further extensions needed. So
Okay. So are we just leaving an open extension, or do we have to approve at a final
So
date?
this one is specific for July 31st, I believe.
It
but
says but beyond July 31st.
Because if an additional amendment comes in, they want you to authorize now, so we don't have to go to another board meeting to authorize it. So just,
Okay.
you're authorizing him to sign any amendment to extend the agreement.
Okay, so I move that we authorize our superintendent to sign any upcoming agreement on any extension with the EVIT IGA amendment.
I'll second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Well done, Matt.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, make sure I don't skip a line here. Next up, so O was removed, so we're not doing that one. Next is the 2021-2022 performance-based pay payout for Evelyn Wynn. And as we discussed in executive session, I'll make a motion that we approve the performance-based pay payout for Evelyn Wynn in the amount applicable in 2022. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
I was not present. Thank you.
All right, moving on to information and discussion items. Administrative meet and confer.
I have nobody here to talk to you about that.
Okay,
Dr. Gussie, members of the board, and guests, we expected one of our principals to be here tonight. She's not here. So we can do our best to answer questions. I just want to be clear that this meet and confer agreement does not affect me, so I'm not a part of that at all. But it does affect any other administration. So I can do my best to answer questions if you have them.
so is this something that our next board meeting will have to vote as an action item, or?
Or, I mean, it's not a deadline.
No, there's
So-
not a deadline.
Okay,
If we followed suit, it's info discussion now, and it would be action at the next board meeting.
And if you want to table it now and bring it back in August, you could do that as well.
I would propose that we table it.
yeah, I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Okay, policy advisories, they keep coming. The first packet, 876 to 905 policy advisories, 116 pages worth. I didn't see anything there objectionable, so that's good. On the other one, the other packet, 906 to 908, much smaller, only 37 pages. And the only thing there of note is that on policy IJNDB-R, there is a place to insert our policy regarding the wireless communication devices. So that'll be inserted there. It's in yellow on page 11 of that 37 of the download. I'm not sure what page it is on now, but it's the third page of IJNDB-R.
288, I believe.
288, okay, yeah. Insert optional district language here regarding additional district level requirements. So put our policy in there that I think we passed last meeting, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Any other comments or questions about the policy advisories 906 to 908? If not, we'll move on. So, future action upcoming. Student outcomes such as report cards and proficiency data, club policies, ESA vouchers, students in sports, and a discussion on 4 peaks. And hopefully some movement on the vacant land coming up soon. Dates of upcoming meetings, August 6th, 2025, and August 20th, 2025. And I did have a discussion with Mr. Hartman, and just so you guys know, if between then and now, if we have something definitive on the vacant land, I would suggest that we have an extra meeting, a special meeting to get that done expeditiously.
I want to share what I told Dr. Rutkowski on the phone. A real estate attorney is currently looking at the one parcel. Again, got an update today that she needs a few more days, so I will keep Dr. J updated on that. He can update all of you. And if things happen quickly and people are here in July or want to join remotely, I don't know how it works, we can move faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'll be away for a lot of it, so I'll do remote if I can.
Okay, cool.
Well, that's another thing that it just dawned on me. I'm really proud of our district for getting all of the budget stuff out of the way, because I think this is the first year that we've gotten it all done before this summer break, because usually I'm gone for those 2 meetings and have to do them remote. And so I think it's nice, not just for us, but for the community, that we have that done early, and now people can kind of go and enjoy their summer. So thank you.
Okay, who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
And a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Record time.
When you were like, the next meeting's in August, I was like, are we missing a month?
Yes. I may not be able to do it. I may not be able to do it from Alaska, but we'll see.
Oh, that's awesome. Where in Alaska are you guys going?
We're taking a cruise. We'll do land first and then
That's amazing.
cruise.